Amanda had already made her plan. "I don't want him," Amanda said flatly, her voice devoid of emotion. "I can't be a mama. Let them give the child to an orphanage or wherever." Auntie Abigail's eyes gleamed with something that might have been respect or might have been disgust. "Are you sure?" "Yes." "Amanda, that's your blood. You're sure you can do this thing?" The Harmattan wind carried the scent of dried leaves and desperation through Ogbomoso that December morning. Amanda sat on the worn bamboo mat outside their one-room apartment, watching her father, Baba Kunle, prepare for another day of climbing palm trees. His calloused hands moved with practiced precision as he tied the ropes around his waist, but Amanda noticed something she had never seen before. Her father's hands were shaking. "Papa, your hands," Amanda said softly, her 14-year-old voice barely above a whisper. Baba Kunle smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. "It's old age, my child. Don't worry yourself." Her mother, Mama Kunle, emerged from inside their room, carrying a small calabash of gari and groundnut. "Come on, eat this before you go," she said to her husband, her own face etched with lines of worry that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with the 3 days they had gone without proper food. "I'm not hungry," Baba Kunle lied. They all knew it was a lie, but there was only enough gari for Amanda and her mother. There was always a calculation in their house, a constant mathematics of survival that never quite added up. Amanda watched her father gulp down some water from their clay pot instead, then hoist his calabash and ropes over his shoulder. "Let me go," he announced. "Today, I will climb the tallest tree at Alhaji's compound. The money will be very good." Mama Kunle's eyes widened with alarm. "Kunle, that tree is too high, and you know your body is not as strong as before. What am I supposed to do?" Baba Kunle's voice rose, frustration bleeding through his usual calm demeanor. "We haven't paid house rent for 3 months. Amanda's school fees are pending. You think I have a choice?" The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Amanda felt it pressing down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. She had stopped going to school 2 weeks ago because the teachers had sent her home. "No school fees, no education," they had said, not unkindly, but firmly. Many children in Ogbomoso faced the same fate. As her father walked away, his frame smaller than it used to be, bent under the weight of invisible burdens, Amanda felt tears sting her eyes. "Mama, I can go help Mama Said wash plates today. She promised me 50 naira. Mama Kunle pulled her daughter close, and Amanda could feel her mother's ribs through the faded wrapper she wore. "My child, thank you. You are trying for this family." The morning passed slowly, as mornings do when you're waiting for a miracle or disaster, and in the life of the poor, those two often arrive together. Amanda was returning from Mama Sade's house, the 50 naira clutched tightly in her sweaty palm, when she heard the commotion. A crowd had gathered near the path that led to Alhaji's compound. Amanda's heart began to race, some primal instinct telling her something was wrong. She pushed through the gathering people, her small frame allowing her to slip between adults who were speaking in hushed, horrified tones. "The palm wine tapper has fallen. They say the rope cut. Ah, God help us. That man has a family." Amanda's 50 naira fluttered to the ground, forgotten. She ran, her legs pumping faster than they ever had, even when she used to race with her friends back when life was simpler, before hunger became their constant companion. She ran until she saw the crowd gathered at the base of the tallest palm tree in Alhaji's compound. And there, lying on the ground in an impossible angle, was her father. "Papa!" The scream that tore from Amanda's throat was not human. It was the sound of a soul breaking, a sound so raw that even the hardened faces in the crowd turned away. She pushed through, fell to her knees beside her father. Baba Kunle's eyes were open, but there was a distance in them, a going-away look. Blood pooled beneath his head, dark and spreading on the red earth. His lips moved, trying to form words. Amanda cradled her father's head, her tears falling on his face. "Papa, please. Papa, don't leave us. Papa." Amanda," her father whispered, each word costing him everything. "Take Kare, your mama. You are special child. God will remember you." "Somebody call an ambulance!" someone in the crowd shouted, but they all knew it was futile. The nearest hospital was kilometers away, and even if they could get him there, who would pay for treatment? The mathematics of poverty was cruel and precise. Baba Kunle's hand, those calloused hands that had climbed 1,000 palm trees, reached up to touch Amanda's cheek one last time. Then, like a candle flame in the Harmattan wind, the light in his eyes went out. The wail that rose from Amanda was joined by another. Her mother had arrived. Mama Kunle collapsed beside her husband, her cries echoing across Ogbomoso, a sound of grief so profound it seemed to shake the very earth. The next 3 days passed in a blur of pain and practical necessities. The community rallied, as communities do when death visits the poor, because they know that tomorrow it could be their turn. They contributed money for the burial, brought gari and stew, sat with the grieving family in the way that Africans have perfected over centuries. But after the burial, after the sympathizers left, after the last sorry had been offered, the harsh reality set in. Mama Kunle and Amanda were alone, more broke than ever, with rent still unpaid, and hunger still waiting at their door like an unwelcome but permanent guest. It was on the 7th day after Baba Kunle's death that the black SUV pulled up outside their apartment. Amanda was inside, staring at nothing, when she heard her mother's gasp. She came outside to see a woman emerging from the vehicle, a woman who looked like she had stepped out of one of those Nollywood movies Amanda used to watch through the neighbor's window. The woman wore a gold dress that probably cost more than their annual rent. Her hair was Brazilian weave, long and flowing. Her jewelry caught the sun and threw light everywhere like she was some kind of goddess. Her perfume, expensive, cloying, reached them even from several feet away. "Abigail?" Mama Kunle whispered, her voice trembling. The woman removed her designer sunglasses, revealing eyes that were assessing, calculating. "Sister, long time." Amanda looked between her mother and this stranger, confusion clouding her grief. "Mama, who is this?" "This is your Auntie Abigail," Mama Kunle said slowly. "My younger sister. We haven't seen each other since many years." Auntie Abigail's gaze swept over their one-room apartment. The peeling paint, the rusted zinc roof, the poverty that clung to everything like a second skin. Her lip curled slightly, an expression of distaste she didn't bother to hide. "I heard that your husband has died," Abigail said, her Lagos accent thick, her tone devoid of genuine sympathy. "I just came from Lagos when I heard the news." "Thank you for coming," Mama Kunle said, her voice small, uncertain. The sisters had not spoken in over 15 years, not since Abigail had left Ogbomoso with promises of sending money that never materialized. Abigail's eyes settled on Amanda, and something flickered in their depths, something that made Amanda's skin prickle with unease. "This one is your child?" "Yes, that's Amanda. She's beautiful," Abigail said, still studying Amanda with an intensity that felt wrong. "How old is she now?" 14. Abigail nodded slowly, as if confirming something to herself. "Sister, let me talk to you inside." She gestured to the SUV where a driver sat waiting. "We need to talk privately." Inside their small room, sitting on the only 2 chairs they owned, the 2 sisters faced each other. Amanda was told to wait outside, but she pressed her ear to the crack in the door, her heart pounding. "The child is wasting here," Abigail said bluntly. "You don't have money, no husband again. What will you do?" "God will provide," Mama Kunle said weakly. "God?" Abigail laughed, a sound without humor. "Sister, it's hard work that provides, not God. Look at you. You've aged before your time. This poverty will kill you along with your husband." Mama Kunle was silent. The truth was a bitter pill, that she couldn't swallow, but couldn't spit out either. "Let me take Amanda to Lagos," Abigail said suddenly. "I will train her, send her to school, give her a better life. I have connections. I can help her." Outside the door, Amanda's blood ran cold. "Abigail." Mama Kunle's voice was hesitant, hopeful, desperate. "Will you really do that?" "I didn't come here to lie," Abigail said. "But there's a condition. You must let her come live with me permanently. Let her focus on her life in Lagos. If she stays here, she will only end up like you, pregnant for another poor man, suffering, tapping palm wine, or washing plates." The words hung in the air, cruel, but not entirely untrue. Mama Kunle's silence was agreement, resignation, and surrender all at once. "I will take care of your child," Abigail pressed. "Better than you can do here, that's for sure." When Amanda was called back inside, her mother's eyes were red from fresh tears. "Amanda, your auntie wants to help us. She wants to take you to Lagos, train you, give you a better life." Amanda looked at her mother, then at Auntie Abigail, with her expensive clothes and calculating eyes. Every instinct screamed danger, but what choice did she have? Stay here and watch her mother slowly die of poverty and grief? Or take a chance on a better life, even if it came from a woman whose smile never reached her eyes? "Mama, I don't want to leave you," Amanda whispered. "My child," Mama Kunle pulled her daughter close, her voice breaking. "Sometimes the people who love us must let us go so we can fly. Go with your auntie. Make your papa proud. Make something of yourself." And so, with a small bag containing everything Amanda owned in the world, 3 dresses, 2 wrappers, a worn Bible her father had given her, and a fading photograph of her parents on their wedding day, Amanda climbed into that black SUV. As they pulled away, Amanda looked back to see her mother standing in front of their one-room apartment, waving, crying, getting smaller and smaller, until she was just a memory, a silhouette, then nothing at all. The SUV sped toward Lagos, and somewhere in heaven, Baba Kunle's spirit watched, powerless to protect his daughter from what was coming. The journey from Ogbomoso to Lagos took 6 hours, but for Amanda, it felt like crossing into another world entirely. As they drove through the streets of Lagos Island, Amanda pressed her face against the tinted window, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. Buildings scraped the sky, cars honked in a chaotic symphony, and people moved with a purposefulness she had never seen in Ogbomoso. Auntie Abigail barely spoke during the journey, except to make phone calls in a language Amanda didn't fully understand, a mixture of English, Yoruba, and what sounded like codes. "Yes, I have packaged the goods. Fresh from village. Yes, she's clean, she's fine. I will bring her tomorrow." Each call made Amanda's stomach twist with unease, but she pushed the feeling down. This was her chance at a better life. She had to trust her aunt. She had no other choice. They arrived at a towering apartment building in Lekki, Phase 1, the kind of place Amanda had only seen in movies. The security guards saluted Auntie Abigail, and they drove into an underground car park that held more expensive cars than Amanda had seen in her entire life. "Welcome to your new home," Abigail said, her voice flat, as they entered the elevator. The apartment was on the 15th floor. When the door opened, Amanda gasped. Marble floors, leather sofas, a television bigger than the wall of her old room, air conditioning that made the sweltering Lagos heat disappear like magic. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the Lagos skyline stretched endlessly, lights beginning to twinkle as evening approached. "This is where I will live?" Amanda asked, her voice small with disbelief. "Yes," Abigail said, dropping her designer bag on the glass coffee table. "But you will do proper work to maintain it. Nothing is free in Lagos." Another woman emerged from one of the rooms, young, probably in her early 20s, wearing a tight dress and heavy makeup even though it was evening. She looked Amanda up and down with barely concealed disdain. "This one is the new girl?" the woman asked. "Yes, Amanda, this is Blessing. She will show you your room and the rules of this house." Blessing beckoned with a long, manicured fingernail, and Amanda followed her down a corridor. The room she was given was small, barely bigger than a closet, with a single bed and a tiny window that faced another building. It was nothing like the luxury of the living room, but it was still better than anything Amanda had known. "Wash yourself and come eat," Blessing said curtly. "And don't ask stupid questions. If you're smart, you will understand what happens in this house very quickly." That night, as Amanda ate jollof rice and chicken, more food than she had seen in months, she observed, 3 other girls lived in the apartment, all young, all beautiful, in that artificial Lagos way, with their tight clothes and confident walks. They spoke in whispers, got dressed up at odd hours, and men came and went with regularity that made Amanda's skin crawl. It took Amanda less than a week to understand the truth. Auntie Abigail was not running a legitimate business. She was a madam in the hookup business, and the apartment was a hub for high-class prostitution. "Your mama thinks I have a job for you?" Abigail laughed when Amanda finally gathered the courage to confront her. "Foolish woman. Work that will pay this kind of money in Lagos? You think it's easy to find? This is the work, Amanda. This is how we survive in this city." But you promised my mama that you would train me, send me to school," Amanda protested, her voice trembling. Abigail's face hardened. "School? Training? With which money? You think I'm a charity organization? I brought you here to work. The other girls are doing it. You too will do it. Or you want to go back to Ogbomoso and die of hunger with your mama." The trap had sprung, and Amanda was caught. She had no money for transport back home, no phone to call her mother, no one in Lagos to turn to. She was alone in a city of 20 million people, more isolated than she had ever been in her small village. For 2 weeks, Amanda resisted. She cleaned the apartment, ran errands, but refused to go out with the clients that Auntie Abigail wanted her to meet. The other girls mocked her, called her bush girl, and fool who doesn't know better. Then Auntie Abigail changed tactics. She began to starve Amanda, giving her scraps while the other girls ate well. She took away the phone Amanda had been given to contact her mother. She began to beat her, slaps that echoed in the apartment, insults that cut deeper than any physical wound. "You think you're better than the other girls?" Abigail screamed one night, her hand connecting with Amanda's cheek with a crack that made the other girls wince. "It's because of pride your papa died poor. You want to die poor too? You want your mama to die poor?" Amanda's mother. That was the weapon Abigail wielded most effectively. "I'm sending money to your mama every month." She lied. That money is keeping her alive. If you don't cooperate, I will stop the money. You want your mama to die? Broken, terrified, and with no options left, Amanda finally agreed. Her first client was a big man, a politician whose face she recognized from billboards. He was old enough to be her grandfather. His breath reeked of whiskey, and his hands were rough and entitled. In that hotel room in Victoria Island, as he stripped away not just her clothes but her innocence, her dignity, and her childhood, something inside Amanda died. She returned to the apartment at dawn, her body aching, her soul empty. Auntie Abigail was waiting, counting money with a satisfied smile. "You see," Abigail said, not even looking up, "that's how life is. You will learn to like it." But Amanda never learned to like it. She learned something else. Instead, she learned to become numb. Over the following months, as client after client used her body, she perfected the art of disconnection. She learned to smile while dying inside, to laugh while screaming silently, to exist without truly living. The money came in, more money than Amanda had ever imagined. Auntie Abigail gave her a percentage enough to buy nice clothes, expensive hair, smartphones like the other girls. She even sent some money to her mother, though far less than what Abigail claimed to be sending. Amanda's mother, in her letters delivered through Abigail, who read them all first, expressed such gratitude, such pride in her daughter, who was making it in Lagos. If only she knew the truth. But how could Amanda tell her? How could she destroy her mother's only source of hope? A year passed. Then another 6 months. Amanda turned 16, then 17. The girl from Ogbomoso disappeared, replaced by a hardened young woman who knew the price of everything and the value of nothing. Then came the night that would change everything again. His name was Alhaji Musa, a wealthy cattle trader from the north with a wife and 6 children. He was Amanda's regular client, and she had learned his preferences, his rhythms, his lies about leaving his wife. That night, in a luxury hotel in Ikoyi, something went wrong. The protection broke. Amanda didn't think much of it at first. These things happened. She took the morning after pill like always, said a prayer like always, and pushed it out of her mind like always. But 2 months later, when her period didn't come, when the morning sickness started, when the test she took showed 2 pink lines, Amanda's carefully constructed numbness shattered. She was pregnant. "Abort it," Auntie Abigail said immediately, no sympathy in her voice. "You know the doctor who does it cleanly. It will cost you, but it's the better thing to do." But something in Amanda resisted. Maybe it was the memory of her father, who had loved her so fiercely despite their poverty. Maybe it was the last shred of humanity she had left. Maybe it was just stubbornness. "I want to keep it," Amanda heard herself say. Abigail's face darkened. "Are you crazy? How will you work with a pregnancy? You think clients want to sleep with pregnant women? And after you give birth, what will you do? You think you can be a mama and a prostitute at the same time?" "I will manage," Amanda said, though she had no idea how. For the next 7 months, Amanda worked when she could, hiding her growing belly under loose clothes. Some clients didn't mind. Some even preferred it, a perversion that made Amanda want to scrub her skin off. Auntie Abigail charged them extra. As her due date approached, Amanda felt something she hadn't felt in years, a flicker of hope. This baby would be hers, someone to love, someone who would love her back unconditionally. Maybe this baby would be her redemption, her way back to humanity. But Lagos had other plans. Amanda went into labor on a rainy night in September. Auntie Abigail drove her to a private hospital in Ikeja, not out of care, but because a dead girl would be bad for business. The labor was long, 18 hours of pain that eclipsed even the pain of her father's death, even the pain of her stolen innocence. When the baby finally came, a boy, small but perfect, with his father's nose and her father's eyes, the nurses placed him in Amanda's arms. "Congratulations, it's a boy," the nurse said with a smile. Amanda looked down at her son, this tiny human who had come from her body, and felt nothing. No rush of maternal love, no overwhelming emotion, just emptiness. The numbness she had cultivated so carefully had spread too deep. She had disconnected from herself so thoroughly to survive that she could no longer connect even to her own child. The baby cried, a thin wail that seemed to accuse her. "You have brought me to this wicked world," the cry seemed to say. "You have borne me into your shame." That night in the hospital, as the baby slept in the crib beside her bed, Amanda made a decision. It wasn't rational, it wasn't sane, but in her broken mind, it made perfect sense. She couldn't be a mother. She was barely a person. This baby deserved better than a mother who sold her body, better than growing up in Auntie Abigail's house of horrors, better than the curse of poverty and prostitution that seemed to follow their family. When the morning came, when Auntie Abigail arrived to take them both home, Amanda had already made her plan. "I don't want him," Amanda said flatly, her voice devoid of emotion. "I can't be a mama. Let them give the child to an orphanage or wherever." Auntie Abigail's eyes gleamed with something that might have been respect or might have been disgust. "Are you sure?" "Yes." "Amanda, that's your blood. You're sure you can do this thing?" "I'm sure," Amanda said, though her hands trembled as she signed the papers the hospital provided for abandoned children. She didn't hold him again. She didn't say goodbye. She simply walked out of that hospital, leaving behind a piece of herself wrapped in a blue blanket, crying for a mother who could no longer afford the luxury of maternal love. But the hospital staff, they couldn't just leave a baby abandoned. They followed protocol. They placed the baby in a basket with a note, "Please take care of my child. I cannot do it." God will bless you." They left the basket outside the hospital gate, a practice that happened more often than anyone wanted to admit in Lagos. Usually, the babies were picked up by orphanages or Good Samaritans within hours. But this time, as evening fell and the streets emptied, a stray dog found the basket first. The dog's name was Simba, a golden retriever with a coat that shone like wheat in sunlight and eyes that held more humanity than many humans possessed. For 3 days, Simba had been missing from the home of Mr. and Mrs. Adeleke, and those 3 days had been an eternity of worry for his owners. Chief Olamide Adeleke was a magnate in the oil and gas industry, a man whose wealth could buy companies, politicians, and just about anything money could purchase, except the one thing he and his wife, Dr. Funmi Adeleke, wanted most: a child. For 15 years of marriage, they had tried everything: IVF treatments in England, traditional healers in Osun, prayers at every mountain and church from Lagos to Jerusalem. Their mansion in Banana Island was equipped with every luxury imaginable, but it echoed with the absence of children's laughter. Simba had been a gift to each other 3 years prior, a poor substitute for the child they couldn't have, but they loved him fiercely nonetheless. On this particular evening, as Dr. Funmi stood at the window of their study, staring out at their manicured compound, tears streaming down her face from another negative pregnancy test, Simba had other plans. The dog had been found by their security team earlier that day, wandering along a wallow road, and brought home. But Simba was agitated, barking insistently at the gate, refusing food, behaving in a way he never had before. "What's wrong with this dog?" the security guard, Emeka, muttered as he opened the gate for the umpteenth time to check if anything was wrong. This time, Simba bolted. "Sir's dog has run away again," Emeka shouted. But Simba was already gone, running with a purpose down the darkening streets of Ikoyi. The dog ran as if guided by something beyond instinct, past the gleaming Mercedes and Range Rovers, past the gated mansions and designer boutiques, across the third mainland bridge, toward the mainland where desperation lived in open air rather than behind closed doors. He ran for nearly an hour, his paws pounding the pavement, until he reached the hospital where Amanda had left her baby. The basket had been moved from the gate to a corner by a groundskeeper who planned to report it in the morning. The baby inside had stopped crying, either from exhaustion or resignation. Simba approached the basket, sniffed, and then did something remarkable. He carefully gripped the basket's handle with his teeth and began to drag it. A passerby screamed, "Ah! Dog has come to steal a child!" But there was something about the way Simba moved, careful, deliberate, protective, that made the woman pause. She watched as the dog maneuvered the basket with surprising gentleness, then began the long journey back to Banana Island. The journey back took hours. Simba had to stop multiple times to rest, to adjust his grip, to check on the baby who had started crying again. At traffic lights, people stared. Some laughed, some reached for their phones to record, but Simba persisted. It was nearly midnight when the security cameras at the Adeleke mansion caught Simba approaching the gate, a basket in his mouth. Emeka, who was doing his night rounds, nearly had a heart attack. Jesus! He rushed to open the gate, and as Simba dragged the basket into the compound, Emeka's flashlight illuminated its contents. A baby. A living, breathing baby boy. "Oh my God! Sir! Ma! Come!" Emeka's shouts brought Chief and Dr. Adeleke rushing from their bedroom. Dr. Funmi reached the compound first, her silk nightgown flowing behind her. She froze when she saw the basket, the baby inside now wailing with the full force of his lungs. "Olamide," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Olamide, come and see." Chief Adeleke joined his wife, and for a long moment, they simply stared at the impossible sight before them. Their dog, their beloved Simba, had brought them a baby. Dr. Funmi, her maternal instincts overriding her shock, immediately lifted the baby from the basket. He was cold, his diaper soaked, his little face red from crying. She held him against her chest, and the baby's cries immediately softened. "We need to take him to the hospital," she said, her voice cracking with emotion. Now, at the private hospital, they rushed to one of the best in Lagos. The doctors examined the baby. He was perhaps 3 or 4 days old, slightly dehydrated but otherwise healthy. The note in the basket was brief, but heartbreaking. "Please take care of my child. I cannot do it. God will bless you." "We need to report this to the authorities," Chief Adeleke said, ever the proper businessman. "This baby belongs to someone." But as he watched his wife hold the child, as he saw the light in her eyes that had been absent for so long, something shifted in him. "Or," Dr. Funmi said softly, her eyes meeting her husband's, "this baby belongs to us. Olamide, look at how Simba found him. Look at how he brought him to us on the very night I was crying about another failed pregnancy. You don't think this is God answering our prayers?" "Funmi, 15 years, she interrupted, her voice fierce now. 15 years we have been begging God for a child. And now, on our doorstep, brought by our dog like Moses in the bulrushes, we have been given one. You want to give him away?" Chief Adeleke looked at the baby, now sleeping peacefully in his wife's arms. The child's tiny hand had curled around Funmi's finger, and something in Chief Adeleke's chest, something that had been hard and businesslike for so long, cracked open. "We will do it the right way," he said finally. "We will try to find the mother, but if she cannot be found, if she truly abandoned him, then yes, we will adopt him legally. We will give him our name, our love, our everything." The search for the baby's mother was perfunctory at best. Chief Adeleke had connections. He knew which palms to grease, which officials to speak with. The hospital where Amanda had given birth was located, and the story of the abandoned baby was confirmed. But the mother's name in the records was false, the address fake. Amanda had covered her tracks well. After 3 months of fruitless searching, the proper adoption paperwork was initiated. The baby was given a name, Olamide Adeleke Jr., or simply Junior. As Junior grew from baby to toddler to child, he was given everything money could buy, and many things it couldn't. He had the best education at Corona schools, then British International School. He had piano lessons, taekwondo classes, trips to Disneyland. But more than that, he had love, deep, genuine, fierce love, from parents who saw him as their miracle. Dr. Funmi left her medical practice to be a full-time mother, something she had dreamed of her entire adult life. Chief Adeleke, who had been a workaholic, began leaving the office early to have dinner with his son. Simba, the golden retriever who had brought them their miracle, was treated like royalty, his own portrait commissioned and hung in the living room beside family photos. Junior grew into a remarkable young man, intelligent, kind, driven by a purpose that seemed to come from somewhere deep within him. He excelled at everything: academics, sports, leadership. By the time he was 18, he had offers from universities around the world. "I want to stay in Nigeria," he announced at dinner one night during his final year at BIS. "I want to study business administration at University of Lagos, then join the family business." Chief Adeleke felt pride swell in his chest. "Are you sure? You can go to Oxford, Harvard." "I know, Dad, but Nigeria is my home. Your business is my heritage. I want to help build it, make it bigger, make it better. I want to make you proud." "My son," Chief Adeleke said, his voice thick with emotion, "you have already made us prouder than you will ever know." What Junior didn't tell his parents was the other reason he wanted to stay in Nigeria. As he had grown older, as he had learned that he was adopted, he had become curious about his origins. The story of how Simba found him had been told to him since childhood, presented as a miracle, which it was. But Junior wanted to know more. Who was his biological mother? Why had she abandoned him? Did he have other family out there? He had hired a private investigator discreetly during his A-levels. The investigation had dead-ended at the hospital, just as it had for his father years ago. But Junior was patient. He had a feeling that someday, somehow, the truth would reveal itself. By the time Junior was 25, he had become the COO of Adeleke Oil and Gas, working directly under his father. He was brilliant at business, with an instinct for deals that reminded Chief Adeleke of himself in his younger days. Under Junior's guidance, the company expanded into renewable energy, tech investments, and real estate. The Adeleke fortune, already substantial, tripled. Junior was featured in magazines, on Forbes 30 Under 30 list, in business journals. He was Lagos royalty, the heir to an empire, the miracle child who had been found in a basket and raised to greatness. But success didn't make him arrogant. If anything, Junior was known for his humility, his generosity, his genuine concern for people. He funded scholarships for underprivileged children, built schools in rural areas, and insisted on ethical business practices, even when it cost the company profits. Money is not everything, he would say, echoing wisdom he didn't know came from the grandfather he never met, the palm wine tapper who had died trying to provide for his family. On Junior's 26th birthday, as he celebrated with friends and family in their Banana Island mansion, with Simba now old and gray but still treated like the hero he was sleeping at his feet, Junior made a silent wish. "I want to find her," he whispered to the universe. "My birth mother. I want to know where I came from." The universe, as it turns out, was listening. And in a small, rundown apartment in Ahegunle, a woman who had once been called Amanda sat in the dark, counting the ways she had failed at life, unaware that the son she had abandoned was about to become the richest young man in Lagos. 18 years. That's how long Amanda's luck lasted in the hookup business. 18 years of expensive bags, designer clothes, foreign trips, and the illusion of success. 18 years of numbing herself with champagne and pills, of pretending that the emptiness inside her was actually freedom. Then everything came crashing down. It started with a raid. The EFCC had been investigating money laundering networks, and Auntie Abigail's operation was flagged. The raid happened at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, men in black jackets storming the Lekki apartment, shouting, flashlights cutting through the darkness like accusations. Auntie Abigail, with her connections and her money, managed to escape prosecution. She fled to Dubai within 24 hours, leaving the girls she had exploited to face the consequences alone. Amanda was arrested along with 3 other girls. They were charged with prostitution, a crime that carried both legal and social penalties. Their faces were splashed across blogs and social media. High-class hookup girls busted in Lekki. The comment section was vicious. As the internet always is to women, it has decided to condemn. Amanda's mother, back in Ogbomoso, saw the news. The shame killed her faster than poverty ever could. She suffered a stroke 3 days after seeing her daughter's face on social media, and died a week later without Amanda ever getting the chance to explain, to apologize, to say goodbye. By the time Amanda was released from detention, the charges eventually dropped due to lack of evidence, and a lawyer her mother somehow afforded before dying. She had lost everything. Her mother was dead. Her reputation was destroyed. Her savings, which she had foolishly kept in Auntie Abigail's account for safety, had vanished with her aunt to Dubai. She was 26 years old, broke, infamous, and utterly alone. The first year after her release was pure survival. Amanda bounced from friend to friend, except the friends from her glamorous life wanted nothing to do with her now that she was radioactive. She tried to get legitimate work, but in Lagos, shame follows you like a shadow. "Aren't you that girl from the news?" a potential employer asked during an interview for a receptionist position. The disgust in his voice was clear. "We don't hire people like you here. People like you." The phrase became a constant refrain. At church, where she went desperately seeking redemption, the side eyes and whispers drove her away. At the market, where she tried to start a small provisions business, customers recognized her and took their money elsewhere. Even at the bus stop, strangers felt entitled to comment on her past. "Prostitute," they would mutter, loudly enough for her to hear. No shame. Amanda moved to Ajegunle, the ghetto, where anonymity was easier to find and rent was cheap enough for her dwindling resources. She lived in a single room that made her childhood home in Ogbomoso look like luxury. Water was a luxury. Electricity was a myth. Safety was a daily negotiation with area boys, and reality. She took whatever work she could find, washing clothes, cleaning gutters, selling sachet water in traffic. The same hands that had once held designer bags now scrubbed toilets. The same body that had once commanded thousands of naira per night now ached from manual labor that earned her barely enough for gari. But the physical poverty was nothing compared to the poverty of her soul. Alone in her room at night, Amanda would remember the baby, the son she had abandoned 8 years ago. She didn't even know his name, didn't know if he had survived, didn't know if he had been adopted or had grown up in an orphanage. The guilt was a living thing inside her, growing with each passing day. She would wake up screaming from nightmares, the baby's cries echoing in her head, his tiny hand reaching for a mother who had turned away. "I'm sorry," she would sob to the empty room. "I'm so sorry." She thought about suicide often. The third mainland bridge called to her sometimes as she crossed it, selling sachet water. How easy it would be to just jump, to end the constant ache of regret and shame. But something always stopped her, maybe cowardice, maybe the faint hope that someday, somehow, she could make amends. Amanda began to pray again, really pray. Not the performative prayers of her childhood, but desperate, honest conversations with a God she wasn't sure was listening. "If my son is alive," she would whisper, "please, just let him be happy. Let him have a better life than I could give him. Let him never know who his mother was." 10 years passed in this grinding poverty. Amanda was 41 now, but she looked 50. The Lagos streets aged you fast. Her beauty, which had once been her currency, had faded under the harsh sun of hardship. Her body, which had once been her commodity, was worn out from hard labor and poor nutrition. She had become invisible in the way that poor people in Lagos are invisible, present but unseen, existing but not mattering. Then came the day that would change everything. Amanda had gotten a temporary job through a local NGO that helped women with troubled pasts. The job was simple, part of a cleaning crew for a corporate event at the Echo Hotel. It paid 5,000 naira for the day, enough to cover her rent that week. The event was a business summit, something about the future of Nigerian enterprises. Amanda didn't pay attention to the details. She just cleaned, invisible in her uniform, grateful for the air conditioning if nothing else. She was emptying a trash bin near the VIP section when she heard the announcement. "Please welcome to the stage our keynote speaker, one of Nigeria's most innovative young business leaders, the Chief Operating Officer of Adeleke Oil and Gas, Mr. Olamide Adeleke Jr." The applause was thunderous. Amanda glanced up out of habit, expecting to see just another rich man in an expensive suit. Instead, she froze. The young man walking onto the stage was handsome, polished, confident. But that wasn't what made Amanda's blood run cold. It was his face. The face that looked exactly like the face of Alhaji Musa, the cattle trader who had gotten her pregnant 19 years ago. The same nose, the same brow, the same set to his jaw. But more than that, and Amanda couldn't explain how she knew this, couldn't rationalize the certainty that seized her heart, he had her father's eyes. Baba Kunle's eyes. The eyes that had looked at her with such love before the light left them. "No," Amanda whispered, the trash bin slipping from her hands and clattering to the floor. A security guard glared at her. "Pick up your bin quickly! You're disturbing the event!" But Amanda couldn't move. She stood there, staring at the young man on stage, as he began to speak with eloquence and passion about building businesses with integrity, about giving back to society, about being blessed to be a blessing. "I was abandoned as a baby," Junior said, and Amanda's knees buckled. She gripped a table for support. "I could have died, alone and unwanted, but by the grace of God and the love of two incredible people who became my parents, I was given a chance at life. My story could have been tragedy, but instead, it became triumph. And that's why I believe in second chances, in redemption, in..." Amanda didn't hear the rest. She ran from the hall, her heart pounding, tears streaming down her face. She ran to the staff bathroom and vomited, her body rejecting the reality her mind was trying to accept. Her son, her abandoned son, the baby she had left outside a hospital, had somehow become this prince, this success story, this miracle. For the rest of that day, Amanda moved like a ghost. She finished her work mechanically, collected her pay, and went home to her one room in Ahegunle. But inside, a war was raging. Part of her wanted to find him, to confess everything, to beg for forgiveness. But what right did she have? She had abandoned him. She had prioritized her own selfish survival over his life. What could she possibly say that would justify what she had done? More importantly, what if revealing herself destroyed his happiness? He had good parents, a good life. He didn't need a prostitute mother with a shameful past contaminating his perfect story. Let him be, Amanda told herself through tears. He's better off not knowing you exist. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. 3 months after the business summit, Amanda's life had somehow gotten worse. The NGO that had helped her get the cleaning job had run out of funding. Work was scarce. Her landlord was threatening eviction. She had sold everything she owned except the clothes on her back and the fading photograph of her parents. Desperation does strange things to people. It makes them take risks they wouldn't ordinarily take. It makes them bold when they should be cautious. Amanda found herself standing outside the Adeleke Oil and Gas headquarters in Victoria Island, her heart pounding. She had taken 3 buses to get here, spending money she didn't have. She didn't have a plan, didn't know what she hoped to accomplish. She just knew she couldn't stop thinking about her son, couldn't stop wondering if seeing him one more time might somehow ease the guilt that was eating her alive. "Please, I need to see Mr. Olamide Jr.," she told the security guard at the gate. The guard looked her up and down, taking in her worn clothes and unkempt appearance. "Do you have an appointment?" "No." "But then you cannot enter. Come back when you have an appointment." Amanda stood outside the gate for hours, watching the luxury cars come and go, watching employees in crisp suits and designer dresses move with purpose. She was about to give up when a sleek black Mercedes pulled up, and through the tinted window, she saw him, Junior, her son. Without thinking, Amanda rushed toward the car. Please, I need to talk to you." Security guards immediately moved to intercept her. "Madam, leave here. Are you crazy?" But Junior, who had glanced out his window at the commotion, held up his hand. "Wait." There was something about the woman's face that struck him, something familiar in her eyes, though he couldn't place it. And he had learned long ago that sometimes the universe puts people in your path for a reason. "Let her come," he said. His security detail was unhappy, but they obeyed. Amanda was brought to Junior's window, where he studied her with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "How can I help you?" he asked kindly. Amanda's mouth opened, but no words came out. How could she tell him? How could she destroy his world with 4 words? "I am your mother. I need help," she finally managed. "I don't have work. I don't have anywhere to stay. I heard that you help people. I just need a little help." It wasn't the truth, but it wasn't entirely a lie either. Junior studied her for a long moment. His security chief was whispering urgently, "Sir, she's a beggar. Let us send her away." But Junior saw something in the woman's eyes, a pain that he recognized from his own mirror, from the times he wondered about his origins, about the mother who had abandoned him. "Come inside," he said, to everyone's shock. "Let's talk properly." 20 minutes later, Amanda found herself in Junior's office, a space so luxurious it made her want to cry. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lagos, original artwork on the walls, furniture that cost more than she would earn in 10 lifetimes. Junior sat across from her, not behind his desk, but in a chair beside her, maintaining eye contact in a way that made Amanda feel seen for the first time in years. "Tell me your story," he said simply. And somehow, in the presence of this kind stranger who didn't know he was her son, Amanda found herself telling the truth. Not all of it, not yet, but more than she had told anyone in years. She told him about Ogbomoso, about her father's death, about the aunt who had promised salvation but delivered damnation. She told him about the hookup business, about losing everything, about trying to rebuild a life from ashes. "I did bad things," Amanda said, her voice breaking. "Things I regret every single day. I became someone I never wanted to be, and now I'm nobody. I'm nothing." Junior listened without judgment, his face reflecting compassion that reminded Amanda painfully of her father. "You're not nothing," Junior said when she finished. "You're someone who survived, someone who's trying to do better. That matters." He reached into his desk and pulled out a checkbook. "I'm going to help you, not just with money, though that too. I'm going to connect you with a skills acquisition program my foundation runs. We help women with difficult pasts learn new skills, start small businesses. It's not charity, it's empowerment." Amanda stared at the check he wrote. 200,000 naira. More money than she had seen in years. "I can't," she started. "Yes, you can," Junior said firmly. "And you will, because you deserve a second chance. Everyone does." As Amanda stood to leave, clutching the check like a lifeline, something inside her broke. Maybe it was his kindness. Maybe it was the way he looked at her with such compassion. Maybe it was simply that she was tired of carrying the weight of her secret. "Mr. Olamide," she said, her voice trembling, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. You said you were abandoned as a baby, that your dog found you?" Junior's expression shifted, surprise flickering across his face. "Yes. How did you know that?" Amanda's eyes filled with tears. Because I was at your speech at the business summit 3 months ago. I was working as a cleaner, and when I saw you, when I heard your story," she couldn't continue. The words lodged in her throat like stones. Junior stood, his body tense. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Amanda took a deep breath, preparing to shatter both their worlds. "I'm saying that 19 years ago, I gave birth to a baby boy. And I was scared and broken, and I thought I was doing the right thing, but I wasn't. I left him outside a hospital, and I have regretted it every single day since." The silence that followed was so complete, Amanda could hear her own heartbeat. Junior's face had gone pale. "Are you telling me?" "I don't know for sure," Amanda said quickly. "I never knew what happened to my baby. I never knew if he survived, if he was adopted. But when I saw you, when I heard your story, the timing, the way you look like your father." She pulled out the faded photograph of her parents. "You have your grandfather's eyes." Junior took the photograph with shaking hands. He stared at it for a long time, then looked up at Amanda, then back at the photo. "We need to do a DNA test," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Amanda agreed, "because I need to know. I need to know if I've been looking at my son, if the baby I abandoned became you." The DNA test took 2 weeks to process. 2 weeks in which Junior couldn't sleep, couldn't focus on work, couldn't stop thinking about the possibility that his birth mother, the woman he had wondered about his entire life, had walked into his office, desperate and broken. 2 weeks in which Amanda lived in a halfway house provided by Junior's foundation, preparing herself for either confirmation of her greatest regret or the relief that she was wrong. When the results came back, Junior invited Amanda to his family home in Banana Island. His parents were away on vacation, which he was grateful for. This was something he needed to face alone first. They sat in the living room, the envelope containing the DNA results between them on the coffee table. Simba, now 14 years old and moving slowly, had waddled over to Amanda and placed his head in her lap, as if he remembered the baby he had rescued all those years ago. "Before we open this," Junior said, "I need you to know something. If the test confirms you're my biological mother, I need you to know that I'm angry. I'm angry that I was abandoned. I'm angry that I grew up not knowing where I came from. I'm angry that you chose yourself over me." Amanda nodded, tears streaming down her face. "You have every right to be angry. But," Junior continued, "I also need you to know that I forgive you. My parents, my adopted parents, they taught me that everyone has a story, that circumstances can push people to do things they never imagined. They taught me about grace, about second chances. And so, whether or not you're my biological mother, I forgive you for what you did." "How?" Amanda sobbed. "How can you forgive me when I can't even forgive myself?" "Because holding on to anger would only hurt me," Junior said simply. "And because I know what it's like to want to escape an impossible situation. I was just lucky enough to be rescued before I could make that choice." With trembling hands, Junior opened the envelope. He read the results once, twice, then looked up at Amanda. "It's you!" he said, his voice cracking. "You're my mother." Amanda collapsed into sobs, her body shaking with the weight of 26 years of guilt, shame, and regret. Junior sat beside her, and after a moment's hesitation, he put his arm around her shoulders. "I'm sorry," Amanda wept. "I'm so sorry. I was broken and lost, and I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought you would be better off without me. I'm so sorry." "I know," Junior said, his own tears falling now. "I know you are." They sat like that for a long time, mother and son, connected by biology but separated by years of pain and different worlds. Simba lay at their feet, the hero of this story, the bridge that had brought them both to this moment. In the days that followed, Junior introduced Amanda to his parents. Dr. Funmi and Chief Adeleke were understandably shocked, but they handled it with the grace that Junior had learned from them. "We always knew this day might come," Dr. Funmi said, though her eyes were guarded, protective of her son. "We always knew that someday you might want to find your biological family." "You are my family," Junior said firmly. "That hasn't changed and never will. But she's also family, and she needs help." What Junior didn't do was bring Amanda into his world fully. He couldn't erase 26 years of abandonment with a few conversations, couldn't pretend that DNA created the kind of bond that took years of love and sacrifice to build. His parents were his parents. His home was with them. But he honored his biological mother with compassion and support. He set her up in a decent apartment in a safe neighborhood. He ensured she completed the skills training program, helped her start a small catering business. He gave her money not so much that it would make her dependent, but enough to give her dignity and hope. "I can't be the son you lost," Junior told Amanda during one of their weekly meetings, which he insisted on maintaining. "That boy died the day you left him outside that hospital. But I can be someone who cares about your well-being, who wants to see you succeed, who hopes you find peace." "That's more than I deserve," Amanda said. "Maybe," Junior agreed, "but it's what I choose to give." Over the following year, Amanda slowly rebuilt her life. Her catering business began to thrive, small events at first, then larger ones as word spread about her cooking. She reconnected with her faith, not in the performative way of before, but in deep, honest seeking. She volunteered at homes for abandoned children, using her story as a cautionary tale and a testimony of redemption. She wrote letters to Junior, long letters that she gave him but never asked him to read. Letters confessing everything, explaining everything, apologizing for everything. Whether he read them or not, she didn't know and didn't ask. Writing them was her therapy, her way of processing her own guilt. Junior, for his part, continued to excel in his life. He took over as CEO of Adeleke Oil and Gas when his father retired. He married a beautiful, accomplished woman who knew about Amanda and accepted the complicated nature of his origins. He had children, 2 daughters, whom he loved with the fierceness of someone who understood how precious and fragile life was. And once a month, he had dinner with Amanda. Sometimes they talked about business, sometimes about his children, sometimes they sat in comfortable silence. The relationship was not traditional, not what either might have hoped for in different circumstances, but it was real, and it was healing. 3 years after their reunion, on the anniversary of the day Simba had found him, Junior visited Amanda's apartment. She had cooked his favorite meal, ifo riro, with pounded yam, and they ate together, the way families do. "Thank you," Junior said, as they finished eating. "Thank you for trying to be better. Thank you for not giving up." "Thank you for giving me the chance," Amanda replied. "Thank you for being the man your parents raised you to be, despite everything I did to you." Junior reached across the table and took his biological mother's hand. "You know what I've learned through all of this?" "What?" "That abandonment wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning. If you hadn't left me outside that hospital, if Simba hadn't found me, if the Adelekis hadn't taken me in, none of this would exist. My life, my success, my family, it all came from that moment of abandonment." "That doesn't make what I did right," Amanda said. "No," Junior agreed, "but it means that even our worst moments can be redeemed. Even our biggest mistakes can be transformed into something meaningful. Not because of who we are, but because of who chooses to love us despite who we are." As the evening ended and Junior prepared to leave, Amanda walked him to the door. Before he left, he turned back and did something he had never done before. He hugged her, really hugged her, the way a son hugs his mother. "I love you," he said quietly. Not as a son loves the mother who raised him, that's reserved for mom and dad, but as one human loves another human who's trying their best to survive this complicated world. "I love you for that." Amanda held him tight, tears streaming down her face. "I love you too, and I'm so proud of who you became, despite me." "Not despite you," Junior corrected. "Maybe even, in some strange way, because of you. Because what you did taught me about grace, about forgiveness, about not judging people by their worst moments." He pulled back and smiled. "Besides, if you hadn't abandoned me, I would never have had Simba as my hero, and that would have been a real tragedy." They both laughed then, a sound of healing, of acceptance, of peace. As Junior drove away in his Mercedes, back to his mansion and his wife and his daughters and the life he had built, Amanda stood in the doorway of her modest apartment and watched him go. She thought about her father, the palm wine tapper who had climbed too high trying to provide for his family. She thought about her journey from poverty to prostitution to abandonment to redemption. And she thought about the miracle of second chances, the possibility of forgiveness, and the strange ways that God answers prayers, even the prayers of broken women who think they're beyond redemption. Behind her, on her small dining table, sat a framed photograph. It showed Junior, his wife, and their 2 daughters. Next to it was another photograph, the faded one of Baba Kunle and Mama Kunle on their wedding day, young and hopeful and not yet broken by poverty. "Papa," Amanda whispered to the photograph, "I know you're disappointed in me. I know I failed in so many ways, but your grandson, the one you never got to meet, he turned out good. He turned out so good. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's our redemption." Outside, in the Lagos night, millions of stories were unfolding. Stories of pain and hope, of failure and success, of abandonment and belonging. Amanda's story was just one of them, neither the worst nor the best, but uniquely hers. And somewhere in heaven, Baba Kunle smiled down at his daughter, at his grandson, at the golden retriever who had saved them all, and whispered the words he had spoken with his dying breath. "God will remember you." And he had. 5 more years passed. Amanda's catering business had grown so successful that she employed 3 other women with difficult pasts, giving them the second chance that Junior had given her. She had moved to a better apartment, reconnected with some family members from Ogbomozo, and found a small church where her past was known but not held against her. Junior's company had become one of the largest in West Africa. His daughters were in primary school, excelling in everything they touched, loved fiercely by their parents and grandparents. And Simba, the golden retriever who had started it all, had passed away peacefully at the age of 17. His portrait still hanging in the Adeleke mansion, his story told to every visitor, his legacy cemented in the life he had saved and the family he had brought together. On the day of Simba's memorial service, because the Adelekes believed he deserved one, Junior stood before a small gathering and told the story one more time. Of the abandoned baby, the heroic dog, the unlikely rescue, of second chances and divine interventions, of how the worst moment of someone's life can become the best moment of someone else's. And in the back of the gathering, wearing a simple but elegant dress that she had bought with money she had earned honestly, Amanda listened and cried and thanked God for miracles. Because that's what this was, a miracle. Not just the miracle of Simba finding Junior, but the miracle of forgiveness, of redemption, of a broken woman being allowed to witness, from a distance, the beautiful life her son had built. She would never be his mother in the traditional sense. That honor belonged to Dr. Funmi Adeleke, who had earned it through years of love and sacrifice. But she was something, a footnote in his story, a cautionary tale with a hopeful ending, a reminder that even our worst mistakes don't have to define us. As the service ended and people mingled, Junior caught Amanda's eye across the room. He smiled, a smile that held no judgment, only acknowledgement. She smiled back, a smile that said thank you, that said I'm proud of you, that said I'm sorry. It was enough. It was everything. It was grace.